change the world.
On we go.
Hello, Bookish family, and welcome back to Coffee Over Apples. My name's Steph. I'm here for you today with a book review featuring an Own Voices Puerto Rican reflection and also Own Voices Fat Self-Identifying reflection for the young adult romance novel Fat Chance Charlie Vega that was so kindly sent to me by the team over at the Hear Our Voices book tour. This book was released on February 2nd, and it is written by Cristal Maldonado, and it ended up being an absolute new favorite 5-star read. As you may already know, every time I read a 5-star book, I do a bookmark and speed drawing for that book, so here we go. I decided to take a few elements from the book and incorporate them into a bookmark that reflects our main character, Charlie, and her journey. So basically throughout the story, we're following Charlie Vega, who is a 16, 17-year-old girl, Puerto Rican American girl, who also identifies as fat. And she's living in a family situation in which her father, who was Puerto Rican, passed away, and she's currently living with her mom, who I believe she mentions is white. So she's struggling because her relationship with her mom is very strained. Her mom ended up going through a huge transformation after her father passed away, and so her mother has been on these extreme dieting programs and losing weight. However, she's also been pushing Charlie to try to fix herself, quote unquote, by encouraging her to drink all of these weight loss shakes and do all of these regimens with her that Charlie just doesn't feel comfortable doing. So it has a lot of really important, hard-hitting conversation about what does it mean to empower yourself and what does it mean to love yourself. This book explores in a lot of ways first love, true love, and self-love. We follow Charlie and some other characters as she's really trying to believe what she says, not only just talk the talk, but walk the walk. So she mentions early on in the story that, she follows a lot of plus size models and social media influencers who are plus size, and she understands, body positivity, but there's a difference between speaking it, believing it for others, and then actually believing it for yourself. And I seriously wish that this book was around when I was a young girl in high school, because I can relate to her feeling of being bullied growing up for your weight, and it was something that I struggled with for most of my life until I found my own happiness and realized that my own happiness for my body should not be reliant on anyone else. It should be reliant on me and understanding what it means to treat my body like the temple that it is. So we're following Charlie as she goes on this journey, and this is something that so many girls and young adults who struggle with body image need to hear. Something that Charlie really addresses in this book is shopping. And that may be something that just may seem really simple for a lot of individuals, but when you're a plus size person, shopping can be intimidating, shopping can be depressing, shopping can be difficult. So whenever she goes shopping with her friends, she feels like she needs to make small purchases of accessories or purses or things that are not actually clothing items in order to not feel left out in the shopping experience. And I understand that wholeheartedly, because for the longest time, I remember going shopping as a kid and not fitting anything in the kids section. And I remember seeing plus size women's stores and being intimidated about going in there just because I wasn't sure if they would have anything in my style, or I was afraid to be seen by people going in there as a teenager. And I regret that so much, because now those are my favorite stores. Those are the places where I can go and I can walk in and know that I can try something on and it's gonna fit, or I can make a purchase without having to worry about trying something on. Like, online shopping as a plus size person can be extremely difficult, and it is addressed so well in this story about how much we get inside our heads as to what others are going to think, instead of being open and honest about our situation, our emotions around something as simplistic as shopping. So the fact that that topic at all was addressed within this book was one of the best plot points that automatically made this a 5-star for me, because I have not seen that anywhere else, especially in YA, and that's probably a result of me not reading enough books with fat representation, which tells me that that's something that I need to do. But it was just so well done. I loved this book. This was a stay up all night because I need to finish it kind of book. This was a during the romance scene, I am screaming under my cover because it is just so cute kind of book. This is a I need other people to read this so I can gush about it kind of book. And this was if I don't see this on the Goodreads Choice Awards for Best YA at the end of the year, I'm going to flip kind of book. It was so good. Charlie's relationship with her family in this book is so important, because even though she is Puerto Rican American, she does discuss not being able to speak Spanish, and so how that is kind of a divide within her family. She discusses how going to family gatherings, and as a Puerto Rican, family gatherings are all about eating arroz con gandules, which I decided to put in a picture here because that's also one of Charlie's favorite dishes, and eating empanadas and making tamales with your abuela, and dancing bachata or salsa, or just having so much fun with your family. And Charlie really struggles with that, because she feels like even though she's related by blood, that she can't identify with her family, that she's a bit more introverted. And in Puerto Rican cultures, being introvert is a little bit difficult because it's a very warm, expressive culture. And I can understand, how she feels of wanting to be closer with her cousins, but also not having the language necessary in order to feel like you're 100% part of the pack. Also, just loving her culture in the sense that she really appreciates the food within her culture, and that food is something that brings family together. And being that her mother is not of Puerto Rican culture, she doesn't realize how important a role that plays in Charlie's life of staying connected to her culture. And I can really appreciate that, because it's food is something that really brings people together, and is definitely part of my culture that has stuck with me the most, is being able to cook my favorite foods for my family and show them that this is my culture. Throughout the story, one of the main points of the story, and that's also in the synopsis, is that Charlie is struggling with getting this attention of this guy that she really likes, because he's in love with her best friend. And one of my favorite aspects of this book is that usually in fiction we hear about, the girl that all the guys want, and what is she? She's usually tall and blonde and blue-eyed and all of these things. But that doesn't happen here. So we do have a character who happens to be Charlie's best friend, and this is where the tea comes in, that she's jealous of her best friend because she keeps getting all the attention of the guys that she likes. And she's also tall and skinny, but she's also black, and she also has curly hair. And she's also just really confident in herself, and she's also a really warm-hearted person. So having this almost full cast of POC characters was the biggest breath of fresh air. It was so realistic, and if you're looking for a book that kind of does these similar tropes that you might find in other YA or romance fiction, but does it in a much more accurately realistic way, this is such a good book. Like, I don't even mind that in some ways it was slightly predictable, but the way that it was handled was so beautifully done, because where you would think that many authors would take the route of building up on this kind of girl hate and putting a wedge between their relationship, the friendships here were so genuine. They were just perfection. Amelia, the best friend, is one of the best friends I've ever seen written into any fiction anywhere. Charlie acted like a 17-year-old. And I say that because I've read so many YA fiction in which the characters' actions were very reflective of someone who has gone through years and years of experiences, and so it feels like the characters were then aged down in order to make sure that the book fits on a YA shelf category in the bookstore, but that does not happen here, and I am so happy for that all the characters made decisions and acted according to their age. So this book is very much reflective and appropriate for young adult audiences. Kudos to Cristal Maldonado for doing that. That was probably one of my favorite aspects of this book. Another love interest in this book is Brian. I love Brian. I love Charlie. I love Amelia. I love the friends in this book. They are so cute. I was gushing about them the entire time. Throughout this book, Brian, who is also Asian American, is showing that he is just the perfect little gentleman. Brian goes about subtly showing that he cares so much by just doing things like making sure that Charlie has what she needs and holding doors open. And he's an artist. I love that for him. I love artists in books, and also that Charlie is a writer and that we have so many creative individuals in this book. They are all supported and uplifted by adults in their life in some form or fashion. I love that for them. I love everything about it, even though there was a small section towards the end with a kind of, not a plot twist, but like a major event that happened that I wasn't really a fan of. I still understand why it was done, and I still understand that it was necessary for character development, because there is a ton of character development in this book. The sweetest, most wholesome thing ever, and I am so grateful for receiving a physical copy of this book, because it is going to be cherished on my bookshelf as, oh my goodness, one of the greatest gifts. So once again, thank you so much for sending me a physical copy of this for an advanced reader review. I am so grateful. You guys need to definitely check this out if you're in the mood for a really good quality YA romance fiction. The links for this book in Goodreads, and also for the Hear Our Voices book tour and more information for Cristal Maldonado, will be in the description below. If you read it or you plan on reading it, please let me know in the comments down below. I post videos every Wednesday and Saturday. See you next time. Bye!
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory. In your wildest dreams.